Hi, it's Giant Dormouse, Mike from Giant Dormouse. I've been nominated to do a couple of challenges, so I thought I'd have a go since I'm down the allotment today. Challenge 1, thank you to Richard and Paul, I was nominated to do a roundup of 2018. Okay, so the first challenge for the 2018 roundup was the best crop. Well, that's a tough one. I personally would say apples. The reason being because it was the sheer variety of apples that came this year. Probably because of that heat wave. So some of them that wouldn't have made it did in that heat wave. And actually, the hotter it got, we actually found the less insects there were, if that makes any sense. So it was apples. Closely followed by soft fruit. And among the soft fruits that were good this year were definitely raspberries. They seem to keep coming again and again. The red currants and black currants and gooseberries, and the gooseberries mostly Hinamaki, which does better down here, which is like a sort of a reddish gooseberry. It's a bit firmer than the white gooseberry. Like many people, I would say my worst crop would be leeks. That's due to that leaf miner, and one or two people have actually taken up the challenge of what we can do about that. But also I was a bit disappointed in I've even got the seed packet because I was so disappointed. This stuff, sweet corn Seville, it's supposed to be frost tolerant and hardy in a climate which is more as we have in the Midlands of England, and also it's supposed to be tasty, etc. I found it to be none of those. It basically was not resilient. And compared to the other sweet corns which we got, which were an early variety, early bird, it was absolutely dismal and disappointing. So it's a toss-up really between leeks, which we didn't hold out much hope for, and sweet corn Seville. Okay, so what would I do differently, and what other lessons learned from 2018? Well, it's a good question. The thing is, I'm one of these people who tends to go with the flow. And like many other people, I had no idea that here in the UK we were going to have a tremendous heat wave. The effect of that on me was it made it the fact that if you grew things from your own seed, like I do, I find it far more difficult because I tended to put the seedlings out when they were very tender, because I've got another batch. But as soon as I put them out, the intense heat sort of just burned them away. And I don't have a grow tunnel or a greenhouse, and I think a greenhouse would have lost some of them anyway. So the thing I would do differently is I think I would predict unpredictable weather, if that makes sense, and get a lot more seedlings probably from nurseries or from local plant growers, which includes hypermarkets, supermarkets. The reason being is you can pick ones which themselves are the healthiest, and even the healthiest of the ones you see in the shop, and they've got more of a chance, and keep them at home, get them acclimatised, and then get them down the allotment rather than just growing from seed. I'm disappointed in that because I love growing things from seed, but I'm just being honest about what works down here. Whereas the seeds I grow at home, and they're in tubs, well, I can look after them all the time I'm at home, and they're probably better cared for than down here. Whilst I'm on the subject of things I would do differently, what I've learned from 2018, I would also say that there's nothing more disappointing than growing things from seed at home, which is where I grow them, generally in tubs and pots, sometimes using little plastic covers because they might be frost tender. You nurture them along and then take them down here, and they are literally like lambs to the slaughter, because you see this neat little row going in and they're like your babies, aren't they? And you come down, you're all excited, and usually down here you find that they've either been slaughtered by slugs or relentless ultraviolet light, and even if you put fleece on top of them, that was the case. In fact, I was even putting fleece on some of my fruit trees, my very young fruit trees, because the leaves were being scorched in the sunshine. So that's something that I might have to learn from as well in the future of 2019. And the other thing is, what would I do differently? I probably might change some of the ways that I do things like pruning and things like that, and do it later. And also probably be a bit more vicious with the pruning, because if you're not, then you get lots of overgrowth and you don't get fruit. Another thing that I would do differently, We tend to use a homemade fertiliser which is called Comfrey Tea, and many of you I'm sure have tried it, but my better half, Mrs. Giant Dormouse, noticed that if you add Comfrey Tea to certain crops, among them sweet corn and other greens such as cabbages especially, they actually take up a taste, and the taste that they take up doesn't agree with her at all. And I had to agree with her that that particular fertiliser, although it's fantastic, does add a taint, like a taste to your crops, which I don't like. So probably ditch the Comfrey Tea, but still use Comfrey leaves as a top dressing to let them rot down over winter. And while I'm on the subject of things, I've got to actually talk about another disappointment, and they were the stringy beans, or even stringless beans, that we grow on the poles. It was so hot in 2018 that many of you noticed that they weren't being pollinated. So thanks to those of you who gave us the tip about using the mister bottle. It didn't work until very late on. I saw a lot of the neighbours down here actually had given up on their stringy beans, but we didn't. We hung on in there and eventually got a bit of a crop. Right, question 4. The biggest challenge of 2018, without doubt, it was watering. For anyone who wasn't around during certain critical weeks of gardening in 2018 in the UK, you would have lost a lot of crops. The heat was incredibly intense, and it was literally 95 degrees Fahrenheit in the shade, even at this latitude of England, which is the Midlands. So if you weren't around on certain days, you'd come back to find your seedlings or most of the things in your greenhouse toasted. So that was the biggest challenge, and it was made worse by the fact that someone decided to decommission the tap nearest to our plot, and it didn't affect the person who decommissioned it because they weren't near this tap. They just decided to fix it over a few days without messaging anyone, and so I was forced to walk up and down the plots. I would say I probably spent 3 or 4 hours over those few days just carrying buckets of water to the plot to keep my stuff alive, so that was definitely the biggest challenge. But I suppose you love your plants so much you just keep going, don't you, to keep it going. And then of course when it was fixed again, you had to time when you came down here, and people started putting hose pipes on their taps as soon as they got down here, even though they weren't using them, forcing other people like me who were a bit kinder to nudge them all the time. So I would think that perhaps in the future people might be a bit nicer and a bit kinder and only put your hose pipe on your tap when you're actually using it, if these hot summers are going to be a feature of the UK. But that was the biggest challenge. Right, what are my plans for 2019? Well, you tell me really. The thing is, I've ideas of what I'd like the plot to be like, but I think if you live in an area which is very heavy clay soil, you're faced with what the soil wants to give you, and I'm not going to go with the beds idea, the raised beds idea here. The main thing being I've got lots of other life commitments, and also I tend to go with the geology of the soil. So to me it's finding things that work down here, and so basically I would say the only thing I would try is probably to make sure that each of my plants has a bit more TLC than I've been giving them, to try and be a bit more scientific about it. That's why I got things like gypsum, which contains calcium and magnesium and sulfur, specifically for fruit trees, and also learning things like over-fertilising a lot of things isn't good for them, particularly fruit trees. You just get more branches, more leaves, and you don't get any fruit. And as you probably know, the other big challenge you've got, where you've got lots of other gardeners, is pests. And oh my goodness, are there a lot of them down here. We've had terrible problems with pear rust, canker, blossom rot, you name it. But you know, I suppose the thing is not to get too precious about any one particular plant. If you lose one of them, you've got to find something a bit tougher, a bit more resistant to the conditions. Well, who inspired me in 2018? Been quite a long year, 2018, and a lot of you have had a big influence on me. I don't really want to name any one particular channel, because every day when you wake up, you're looking for different forms of inspiration, and people provide different forms of input on YouTube. I would praise everyone who puts gardening videos on YouTube, and like many of you, I specifically look out for them I would say probably maybe the smaller channels, only for the sake of the fact that maybe because I'm a learner myself, I'm at that particular level where I feel sort of comfortable with people who are sort of at the beginning of the gardening journey, because I feel that's the case with me. I'm not some sort of old pro, you know, who knows what they're doing all the time. I'm someone who needs inspiration and input from other people. Okay, so finally for this particular challenge I need to nominate 3 other channels. So I'm going to choose 3 smaller channels which I would love to see grow bigger and deserve more of an audience. They are as follows. The first one is Jaqaroo, who's based in Tokyo, and I love watching the gardening he does on his allotment, which you get allocated one, and you're never particularly sure from one year to the next, you know, what's going to happen with that. But he inspires a lot of people in the community with what he does out there. He's also a musician, and he does running, as in serious, you know, marathon running. The next one is Nick's Allotment Diary, again a great channel, and does lots of things on his plot to a very high standard, and a lot of people are impressed by how he handles his allotment. And 3000% also because of the inspiring videos that she puts on her channel as well. So those three channels are the ones I'd like to nominate to do this challenge of the Roundup 2018. The other challenge I've been asked to do is Island Kitchen Garden asked me to nominate my favourite video. Now that is quite a tough one, so I've decided I'll do it about gardening, and it will be the very first allotment video I did, and that's because I was so naive. The committee obviously show you which plot is yours, and then once you work out what the massive challenges involved, you realise that it's not going to be easy. And not only that, it's not like you're taking over from where someone's left off. In our particular case, it didn't look like the plot had been worked fully for many years. Perhaps a few potatoes were there, and someone came up to me and said, you'll have it all weeded by the end of the weekend, won't you? At first I really thought, you know, I took them seriously, you know, my naivety, but my partner and I don't know, something inside me did anyway. You know, we spent about 9 hours or 10 hours weeding on the first weekend, you know, just about breaking your back, which is not a clever thing to do. And I also naively thought that by doing the weeding, that was me sort of cracked on the plot, and you could just like plant your stuff. But obviously, you know, after a couple of days, I did realise there's a lot more to it than that. But technically speaking, I wasn't totally wrong, because I noticed that people who don't do weeding generally tend to have a lot of problems here. I don't know about on other sites, because there are millions and millions and millions of weed seeds. So there would be my first video. I was quite positive about it, and you might notice one side of my face is slightly paralysed, because I was still sort of recovering at the time from palsy. Where basically you sort of get paralysis, well, that form of palsy where you got paralysis on one side of your face. And I noticed it when I was speaking, and even towards the end of the day sometimes my face sort of droops slightly when I smile. It can be a bit lopsided, but it was quite pronounced on that one. But that's my favourite video anyway. Right, and then there's the question of nominating people for their favourite video on their channel, and I'd also like to nominate the same channels that I've nominated to do the Roundup of 2018. That's Jaqaroo, Nick's Allotment Diary, and 3000%. All links we put down below, and thank you very much for watching.